I really was given a wake-up call in the 6 months or so prior to deciding to buy this car. Maybe it was a little bit longer than 6 months. But I had the very untimely passing of a couple friends. 3 friends, in fact, all died within probably 2 months of each other. And these were young guys. They were in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. So definitely not old by any means. And I think that really put a lot of things in perspective for me. And just really reminded me that we're all here on this planet for a very limited time. Some people more limited time than others. And you only have one life, and you have to live it how you want. You should not be putting things off. Don't put off your dreams. Don't put off your goals. Don't put off the things that you want to do, the places you want to see, the things that you want to accomplish in your life. Don't put those off, because you don't know how much time you have. And so that really prompted me to get serious and about, I like I said, I had always wanted to own a 911. I know we are supposed to be sheltering in place, and recreational drives are not exactly recommended. But you know what? It's my birthday, and I really want to go for a drive, so that's what we're going to do today. Yeah, I've missed that a lot. I have definitely missed driving. Anyways, we're not going to do any crazy driving or anything like that today. We're just going out for a nice cruise. Haven't been out in a while. I know that the police are out patrolling a lot of the streets because they do want people to stay at home. So I'm not going to be doing anything illegal that might get me in trouble or whatever. So I thought today I would maybe tell you a little bit about how I came to acquire and buy this Porsche 911, which is absolutely one of my dream cars, and I'm super thankful and feel very privileged to have it. So first of all, I'll start with context. Before driving this car, before buying this car, I had an Audi S4. It was a 2010 Audi S4. That's the one with the supercharged 6-cylinder engine. It was a great car. I had about 110-ish thousand miles on it or something, and absolutely super fun, great car, great for the family. I had, it's got back seats. It was easy to take the kids around. Had a ton of download torque with that supercharger. I mean, peak power was probably somewhere around 2,000 RPM. So in day-to-day driving situations, you had just a lot of power on tap, and it was a really fun and quite luxurious car. And I had the Lotus at the time too. I had my Lotus Elise, but what I was finding was I couldn't drive the Lotus as much as I wanted, because obviously there's only 2 seats, and that makes it a little bit hard when you're a parent, and sometimes you got to do school pickups or drop-offs with the kids, all that sort of stuff. Using the Lotus was just not very practical for those types of situations. And plus, if you've ever driven a Lotus, they're just loud and not that comfortable and very basic, no frills cars. So I just was not driving the Lotus as much as I wanted to. So that led me to a point where I wanted something a little bit more sporty than the S4, but that I could drive every day. I'm a firm believer that if you have a car, you should enjoy it. You should absolutely be out there driving it and putting a lot of miles on it. In fact, I have a ton of respect for guys. I read these stories about guys who have, Ferraris or McLarens that have, close to 100,000 or maybe more than 100,000 miles on them. And that's rare for those types of cars, but it really shows me that and demonstrates these people enjoy driving their cars. They enjoy getting out there and using them. There's this one McLaren, I think in the UK, McLaren F1 that has something like 40,000 miles on it. And I just find that so impressive for a car that is that valuable and that exotic. As somebody is really out there enjoying it, driving it regularly to the point where they're racking up some miles. So I think that that's really cool. All right, so how did I go from S4 to 911? Again, I already mentioned this, but I've got 2 kids. They're currently 10 and 8 years old. And so one of the requirements that I had for whatever car I was going to get, and I had been looking at like some used McLaren MP412Cs and some other cars, but one of the things that I netted out on was if I'm going to use this car every day as my primary car, it really has to have back seats. They don't have to be big back seats, but it has to have back seats that I can put small children in. And luckily my son's getting big enough that he can ride up front and my daughter can ride in the back. He can put the seat way up and she has plenty of space there. But once I netted out on the fact that I had to have back seats, that really did limit the options quite a bit. And I kind of narrowed it down to various Porsche 911s. There was sort of the GTS, the 997, the 991. I looked very, very briefly at the Nissan GTR because I thought that was a pretty cool car, but and it also had back seats. I looked a little bit at the Lotus Evora, the Evora S. Being a Lotus guy, I was like, that would be cool to drive an Evora as my daily driver. But ultimately, I started to hone in on the 911, and I actually rented one on Turo.com to just evaluate whether it was something that I felt like I could live with, and whether it really lived up to the hype. Because you see a lot of 911s, and Porsche sells a ton of these cars. There's a reason why they sell a lot of these cars, because they're good. They are so good at everything. I mean, it is really the practical sports car that you can live with every single day and use for anything you want. You can use it to go to Home Depot. You can use it to commute to work. You can use it to take the kids to school. It is just a very, very livable sports car. And so I settled on the 991.1S, which was one of the last, it was the last naturally aspirated 911. So I thought that would be pretty cool to have that. Porsches may not win any of the latest awards for design, they're not really at the cutting edge of that really iconic exotic car design, but the 911 design is so timeless that it never goes out of style. A 911 always looks good, whether it's an old one or a new one. It just really is an iconic design, and they have not screwed it up all these years. So I mentioned that I did look at the 997 model 911 and the 991. And the 997 I thought was a great car, but given that I was going to use it every day and I did need use of the back seats to take my kids around, I settled on I went with the 991 because it's just a bigger car and it has a little bit more space back there. It also felt like the 991 had a more up-to-date modern interior with a lot of the creature comforts that would be nice to have for a daily driver, a car that I'm going to use every day. Heated and ventilated seats, all the Bluetooth stuff, just a very modern environment to be in. The 993 911 Turbo, which was the last of the air-cooled 911s, circa 1997, the Turbo was the top-of-the-line 911 that they made, and it had 400 horsepower. So before, you used to have to buy the top-of-the-line 911 to have those kind of power figures, and now the Carrera S has 400 horsepower, so it's got plenty of go for what you need. And I have a lot of friends that have GT3s and GT3 RSs, which are amazingly quick cars, certainly much faster than this car at the track. But what I've found is that, if you're on a twisty mountain road or you're, going for a coastal drive or something like that, the car is not the limitation. The road is the limitation. So, to be totally honest, the Carrera S keeps up with the GT3s no problem on a recreational fun street drive. So why now? Why buy a 911 at this point in my life? I mean, I'm 40 years old. I've got 2 little kids. It's not exactly the most sensible decision to go with a sports car at this point in my life. Most people are buying SUVs or minivans in this situation. And I'll tell you why. I really was given a wake-up call in the 6 months or so prior to deciding to buy this car. Maybe it was a little bit longer than 6 months. But I had the very untimely passing of a couple friends. 3 friends, in fact, all died within probably 2 months of each other. And these were young guys. They were in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. So definitely not old by any means. And I think that really put a lot of things in perspective for me. And just really reminded me that we're all here on this planet for a very limited time. Some people more limited time than others. And you only have one life. And you have to live it how you want. You should not be putting things off. Don't put off your dreams. Don't put off your goals. Don't put off the things that you want to do, the places you want to see, the things that you want to accomplish in your life. Don't put those off, because you don't know how much time you have. And so that really prompted me to get serious and about, I like I said, I had always wanted to own a 911, and again, it wasn't the rational time to do it. I could have easily waited till my kids were off to college. We never really know how much time we've got left. It might be a year, might be 5 years, might be 10 years. But the lesson that I had from the passing of those friends was that you just shouldn't put things off, because you really don't know what your future holds. So if there are dreams that you want to pursue, you should absolutely do it. Life is definitely more interesting when you drive a sports car every day, and it makes even the mundane things like going to the grocery store, going to Target or Costco, just more fun. You get funny looks, you get comments from people when you're loading up the front trunk with your groceries, and it's a conversation starter, and it just makes life, like I said, more enjoyable. So whether I have 1 year left or I live to be a ripe old age, I want to spend as much time as I can in one of my happy places, which is behind the wheel of a fun car. So that helped make up my mind and help me make the decision to to buy a 911 as a daily driver, so that I really could spend as much time as possible behind the wheel of something that I enjoy. And really, I have been so happy with this purchase. It's probably one of the most expensive things I've ever purchased, but it's also one of the things that's given me the greatest pleasure. And I find like this car, I feel like it was really meant to be. I mean, if you know me, you know that I love blue cars. And actually, I was looking at this blue 911 that was in Pennsylvania. I was pretty serious about it. I really liked it. I was even dreaming about how fun it would be to do a cross-country road trip, picking up the car and just driving it back to California. And I was pretty close to doing a deal on it. I had talked to the guy. We had sort of started to come to an agreement on price, but not entirely. We hadn't quite finalized the deal. And then this white car popped up. And the white car was in Seattle, so it was a little bit closer, which was nice. The white car also had a bunch of extra options that I really liked and thought would be nice to have. It was basically the same price as the blue car, but it had the full leather, it had the keyless entry, the Porsche calls it entry and drive, it had the Porsche dynamic lighting system, it had a few of the creature comforts that I thought, well, those would be really nice to have for a car that's going to be a daily driver and something I'm going to use really frequently. So the white car came up, and I was sort of negotiating with the dealer on the blue car, and I felt like I had to make a pretty quick decision, because I knew the white car was a good car at a good price. It had about 32,000 miles on it, which to some Porsche owners, that's kind of a turnoff, but To me, it was not, because I plan on putting a lot of miles on this car anyway, so I wasn't too worried about that. But I felt like I had to make a pretty quick decision here. So in addition to having some of the options that I thought would make it a better daily driver car, I also really loved the color combination. Again, I am partial to blue cars, but the white with sort of the, they call it the agate gray, but it's sort of a brownish gray interior, just looked so good in my opinion. I thought it was a very tasteful color combination, and something that would be great for a daily driver. White is also a very low maintenance color. It's easy to keep it clean, and it kind of always looks clean even when it's dirty. So all of that in combination with the fact that it was a little bit closer. I mean, Seattle compared to San Francisco versus Pennsylvania certainly would make pickup a little bit more simple for me, because I could fly up to Seattle and get it. So I ended up dealing with Jason at northwesteuro.com, and it was an amazing purchase experience. It was seriously the best car purchase I've ever had. He was just so honest, and I bought the car sight unseen, which is a little bit crazy, but I just had a really good feeling, and I knew he was representing the car honestly and exactly. I knew what I was getting, and I had no worries that he was gonna, that the car was anything but what he said it was. And it totally exceeded my expectations. I mean, the car was perfect in every way, exactly as described. Would highly recommend Northwest Euro. I'm going to put a link to them in the video description so that people can check out their inventory. They are a very small private dealership up in Seattle, but they get some really cool cars through there. One of the things that I was most excited about this car, a lot of people do these European deliveries where they order a new Porsche from the factory, fly over to Germany and pick it up. And you can't really do that with a used car, right? But I actually had planned, obviously buying this remotely over the internet up in Seattle, I had planned that we were going to fly up to Seattle as a family, pick up the car, and then all four of us were going to drive it back to the Bay Area, which sounds pretty crazy considering the type of car that this is. It wasn't like an SUV or whatever. This is a small car. Oh, and we were doing this in the dead of winter too, so we had to bring kind of like snow boots and rain gear and warm weather clothes, and like we had a lot of bulky stuff with us on the trip. But that was my plan, and I was super excited about like the pickup part of this too, because I knew it would be an adventure. I tend to form a really strong connection with the cars that I own, and I tend to keep cars generally for a pretty long time. And I feel the same way about this 911, because it just does everything well. I can't see myself ever needing anything more than this car. Like, yes, there are certainly faster cars out there. There's certainly more exotic cars out there. But this does everything I need, and, I'm very content with what I have rather than always wishing and thinking about the next thing. And I feel very fortunate to have a car like this. Never in my wildest dreams, when I was a young kid growing up, would I think I would own two amazing cars. But I'm also extremely fortunate to just be in a situation where this is my reality. So I plan on keeping this car for a while. Hopefully I will actually put over 100,000 miles on this car. Maybe I'll even hand this car down to my kids when I'm gone. I hope it's something that will stay in the family, because again, there will be a lot of memories and sentimental attachment accumulated with the car over the years. There already have been in the year that I've owned it, and there's only more to come. I hope my kids have memories of this car and growing up with this car. I mean, you read a lot of stories on the internet and in magazines about car enthusiasts when they were young being schlepped around in the back of their parents' 911s or other interesting cars, Alfa Romeos or whatever from the 60s and 70s. And I hope my kids will look back on this with a similar nostalgia around yeah, I remember, remember when Dad was crazy and we flew up to Seattle and bought that car and he drove it home? Or all the times that I dropped them off at school and their friends were like, whoa, you think your dad's got a Porsche? That's pretty neat. Or just the memories of doing stuff and this car being a part of our lives. I hope that persists and lasts well into their adulthood. They're young kids now, but before we know it, they'll be grown. And although I don't want to force my hobby of cars onto them in any way, if they have some positive, happy memories associated with the cars that I've had in my life, that's good enough for me.
Like, comment, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to ring the bell so you can get notified when we post a new video.